Expeditions is the new game from Stone Mario Games. It is a competitive 1 to 5 player engine building game, and it's the sequel to the highly acclaimed Scythe. Does it live up to the name though? Well, let's find out. So I was very excited when this was announced because I really love Scythe, and Jamie said they wouldn't be releasing any more new content for Scythe, but then we have this. And if you take a look at Jacob Rosalski's amazing artwork and atmosphere, you'll realize, yeah, it's more Scythe, but that's where the similarities end. So if you're not familiar with the universe, here's a quick story rundown. So the game of Expeditions takes place in the early 1900s, where a huge meteorite hit Siberia in a region called Tunguska, and as usual, you all set out on an adventure for fortune and glory. So again, this is claimed to be the sequel to Scythe, but it doesn't play like Scythe at all. And it doesn't need to. So in this game, on your turn, you have your player board, this mat mech, and you have an action token, this cube, and you have these three actions on the upper right corner. And on your turn, you move. You're going to move your action cube to a new spot, and you do whatever you haven't covered. So it's very simple actually. You have these three actions, move, play, and gather, and on your turn, you're going to do a set of these two actions, typically. Eventually you'll have to refresh. When you refresh, you take everything back, because in this game you'll be acquiring cards, you'll be playing cards, you'll be assigning workers to those cards, and when you refresh, you'll reset and you'll get everything back. And then you'll move your cube towards the arrow, and you get one turn to do all the three actions, and then again you'll do a set of two actions. And as usual, like in Scythe, this game will have this board with a few different categories for you to place stars in. So when you fulfill a requirement, you'll have to spend an action to place a star on the matching category. The first player to place 4 stars will end the game, and then you'll score for points. The player with the most money wins the game. And this game has no interaction at all. You're doing your stuff, everybody else is doing their stuff. It all comes down to, can you do your stuff more efficiently than everybody else? Okay, so right off the bat, let me just say something before I forget. In the box, it says 1 to 5 players. That's a lie. This is a great 2-player game. It's a great 3-player game. It's hardly a 4-player game, and it's not a 5-player game at all. At higher player counts, a few issues arise, because the setup is not dependent on the number of players. It's always the same amount of map tiles, always the same amount of corruption tokens, always the same amount of cards, always the same amount of map tokens. It's always the same whether you're playing at 2 players or you're playing at 5 players. So at higher player counts, there might not be enough corruption tokens for everyone, there might not be enough map tokens. I mean, you can get map tokens from one of these tiles, but still. And at 5 players, it's just way too crowded. And some people say that the player going last in turn order has no advantage, has no benefits. Well, they don't need to, because you're assuming there's one best course of action to do at the beginning of the game. Well, there's not. Most people think that getting workers early on is the only viable option. While workers are very important, it's really not the only option. Cars are very important. Map tokens are very important. Exploring overall is very important. But again, these issues only arise when there's a lot of people on the table, when this is a 3-player game at most. I mean, if there's really that one person that's left out and really wants to play, maybe, sure, but the 3 players is where this game really shines. Plus, in the box says 60 to 90 minutes. In what universe is this possible? I mean, a 4-player game, it took me around 3 hours. It's just unbelievable. I mean, a 2-player game might take around that, but never a 4 or 5-player game. So yeah, unfortunately the game doesn't play well at those player counts, so you've got a red flag right there, and from now on, my review will reflect the 3-player threshold. Alright, so theme-wise. When teaching this game, it's not easy for other people to grasp what you are actually doing and connect it to the theme without stretching the rules explanation beyond what's needed. I want to be able to teach this in about 5 to 10 minutes because I think that's how long it should take. But it seems that for me to accomplish this, I need to sacrifice something else. And that's not really fair on other people, nor the game itself. But the theme, once you get it, it really comes through. You have your character, your companion, you're exploring unknown territory, you're completing quests, melding meteorites, upgrading your mech. and getting rid of corruption along the way. So as usual, the issue with this kind of games, these asymmetric games, is balance. It's always balance. So is this balanced? I think it's still too early to say. I don't think anyone can answer that yet. The asymmetry in this game comes from your character paired up with your companion, in which you have their core values and an ability. They're very similar, every character and their respective companions. They're very similar. Maybe the only difference is the color worker units and the core values it provides. The biggest asymmetry, though, comes from your player boards, your mech mats. You're given one of these at the beginning of the game, and each of these has one ability on the bottom right corner. They're all different, and some of them seems to be better than others. So whenever you vanquish, reduce the cost of the first corruption of each color by 1. Okay, that's useful. You may gain cards directly to your hands. That's huge. Your move range is 1 to 4 locations. I mean, that's also good. You may solve, upgrade, and melt up to 5 times each. This one has a ton of potential, but it's late game. It's a very late game ability. You might not get to use it, depending on what you're doing. You may trash a map token at any time on your turn to gain power guile or 1 coin. Okay, this one's fine too. So yeah, some of them are clearly better than others, and only one of them, which is the solve, upgrade, and meld up to 5 times each, I think it's the only one that you don't get to use from the beginning of the game. Yeah, so every other ability, it seems to be like a passive ability. This one, it's very end game, but it has a ton of potential, because melding meteorites, it's pretty much what wins you the game. It's what will give you the amount of coins needed to score very high, and if you manage to do it 5 times, that's huge. But again, you might not even be able to do any of this. And this game is a little bit of a table hog too. You not only need room for the map, all the map tiles, you also need room for all your stuff. You need room for your player board on the left, because it's your hand's on the left of your player board. On the right, your playing cards on the right, and then your tucking cards on pretty much every side of your player board. So it does require some space. Rules-wise, there's just one thing that wasn't very clear to me. So you have this player aids, which has all of the actions. So on one side you have move, play, gather, and refresh. So the 4 actions you have on your mech mats. And on the other side you have a few more actions. So solve, upgrades, melt, boast, and vanquish. Okay, so these are actions too. More sort of abilities. Right, so you have move, play, and gather on your mech mats. Where are the other ones? So that's not very intuitive at first, because these actions, they actually come from either some map tiles or some cards. And that's not very intuitive at all at first, but yeah, once you get it, you get it. It's pretty easy. But I mean, they should have done something so these are not main actions. These are not main actions that you can actually select. These come from cards or map tiles. Everything else is very clean, very well done. The rulebook is very well written, as usual. On the back of the rulebook, you have all the iconography and all the actions explained in detail. You also have those on the iconography on the other rulebook, on the other player aid cards. There's all the iconography here explained as well, so everything's very clean. Component-wise, everything's amazing. I mean, it's a stone mire. These mech mats, they actually came with stickers. You can optionally place in the corners, so it rises. It gives it a little of a rise on the table, making it easier for you to tuck cards underneath. I didn't place mine because I didn't feel the need for it. Plus, all my boards, they're warped, so yeah, there's that. I mean, I don't think there's a single game in my collection in which I managed to have either cards or boards laying flat on the table. I think it's due to the heat. It's very hot right now, but it's fine. It works just fine. These map tiles, they're huge. I mean, the game is way bigger than it needs to be, and these tiles are no different. They're very huge. I mean, I think they're this big to reflect the size of the mechs. I got the metal mech version, by the way. This is one of the metal mechs. They're very chunky. They feel really good. They're very heavy. I was thinking about painting them. Now I don't know if I want to. I'm not sure I want to. But I mean, everything fits just right. But again, the game's huge. This box, they're the same size. Just out of curiosity, this box is the same size roughly as a big Eagle Griffin Lacerda game. This box is slightly taller, but other than that, the box is just the same size as an Eagle Griffin Lacerda game. And the game does have room for expansions, and I mean that literally. The box is so big, and there's so much empty space in here. The insert is already prepared to receive tons of new stuff. So again, my final thoughts will reflect my 3-player limits opinion. This game is so up my alley. I like how there's asymmetry, but it's so very slight. Like in Scythe, you're dealt a random character with their companion, along with a player mat. I don't know how balanced everything is, but because I've only tried a few combinations, but I'll assume it's more balanced than Scythe. That, along with the random map tile layouts and the random card display, you'll never play two of the same game of expeditions. I love the race elements. Like in Scythe, you're completing objectives and placing stars along the way, but unlike Scythe, this game doesn't end so abruptly. Because in Scythe, when someone places their 3rd star, you think, the game's halfway through. Yeah, it might not be. It might be nearing its end, because it's pretty easy to place 3 or 4 stars in a single turn. Whereas in this game, you need to spend an action to place a star. Even if you meet more than one category, for you to place a star, you need to spend an action to place a star. So it's obvious when someone's going to end the game. Plus, when someone triggers the end of the game, everyone gets one final turn anyway. The action selection system is very clean. I love the deck building aspect. I love the engine building aspect, where you're upgrading your mech, you're completing quests in specific spots, you're upgrading your mech, and your mech gets ongoing abilities for the rest of the game. You're melding meteorites for a ton of points. Everything feels really good. Again, this game has very little to none interaction. The only interaction you'll get is blocking someone off the spot they want to. So I actually don't mind that. I like doing my own stuff. But if you like interaction, this game is not for you. So if you like Scythe, you'll probably like this. It's the same setting, same universe. If you don't like Scythe, try this anyway. It doesn't play anything like Scythe. You might like it. So for me, right now, as a 3-player game, this is an 8.5 out of 10. It has a lot of potential, and hopefully the expansions will come to fix some of the ongoing issues, but right now this is how I feel, and it does live up to the name of its predecessor. And we're done. That was Expeditions. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time.